Rain lashed the steel windows, sounding like nervous hunters tapping on glass. In the middle of a small metallic room, a girl sat on the cold floor. Her clothes were plain and gray, no name, no rank, no comfort. She touched her head and winced. Her mind felt like a blank canvas. Blank, nothing. She tried to remember. But all she felt was a distant echo of pain. And the constant hum of machines. The harsh, bright light made her squint. Her own voice seemed far away when she spoke. "Who am I?" A mechanical voice replied from speakers in the walls. A calm, emotionless tone. "Identity unknown. Subject is designated Unknown 7. The girl said nothing. She pressed her hand against the floor, as if it would help her remember. Days, maybe weeks had passed. She could not tell time. No sun, no clocks. The room had only one door, thick, silent, and closed. The hum grew louder. A panel in the wall slid open with a quiet hiss. 4 figures stepped in. Tall and thin, with smooth gray skin and unblinking black eyes. They stood on slender legs and moved without sound. These were the Zarnak. The girl leaned back as they surrounded her. Her heart pounded. She didn't know why she felt afraid, but she did. One Zarnak held up a small metal box and tapped it. Inside, there were glowing symbols moving like living. Light, the girl frowned. The shapes reminded her of ancient runes, but she could not read them. Her head hurt when she tried. Another Zarnak scribbled symbols on a floating screen. The machine beeped. She watched it, her heart rate, her brain signals, her breathing. She was an experiment. A test subject. A third Zarnak placed a cold metal helmet on her head. The instruments over her eyes scanned her mind. She tried to hold on to something, anything, but it all slipped away. A word, a memory, a face. Gone. When they removed the helmet, the girl breathed hard. She pressed both hands against her ears, as if to stop noise inside her head. But the silence inside was deeper. The Zarnak spoke again. "She responds at 12 HV. HM, said another. They turned and left. The panel hissed shut. Machines. Powered down. The hum dropped. The girl touched the spot where the helmet had been. She blinked hard, a single tear rolling down her cheek. This was her world now. Cold metal walls, a blank mind, and the Zarnak's tests. She lay on the cold metal bed. Her gray clothes clung to her. A light buzzed above. She stared at it. The hum of machines echoed through hidden vents. Her stomach growled. She realized she hadn't eaten. She pressed a button by the bed. A small tray slid out, carrying a plate with bland gray paste. No smell, no flavor. She scooped a bite and chewed. It slid down without taste. Pain flared again in her mind. Not pain in her head, but pain in her soul. It was distant. She swallowed hard. "Eat," the speaker whispered. Her pulse betrayed the word. Still, she ate every bite. The fuel made her feel stronger, but empty too. Something inside her stirred. She pushed herself up. The bed clanged as she moved. She tilted up a thin mirror at her face. A young woman stared back. Wide eyes, pale skin, dark hair tangled. She stared. But she had no memories of who she was. No name, no story. She pressed her hand to the reflective surface. This body belonged to someone important enough for the Zarnak to capture. But the person, she felt nothing. The door slid open again. Today the Zarnak had a new test. It was not a screen or symbols. This time there were 2 walking, talking humanoids. They wore advanced dark uniforms. They brushed past the Zarnak, but didn't seem to notice them. The girl froze. Humans. She had not seen a real human in weeks. Weeks? She wasn't even sure. One of them, a man with calm, sharp eyes, stood close. He knelt and gently asked, "Do you know who you are?" The girl studied his face. Her head spun. She blinked. I don't remember," she said in a soft voice. The man nodded slowly. "We just want to help. You're safe." His eyes lingered sad, hopeful, and trying not to smile. The second human, a woman, stepped forward. She held out a small rectangular device. "Memory backup," she whispered. "We found you after the raid." She looked at the Zarnuk behind her, contemptible and silent. "You were the only one left alive." The girl stared at the device. Muffled sounds echoed inside. A child's laughter, somebody calling her name, then another voice, distant. She reached out to touch it, but thought better. The Zarnuk would punish her. She felt fear rise. I can't remember anything," she said again. The man sighed. "Let's go." They guided her out. The door slid shut behind them. She took a few steps and realized the place was huge metal. Corridors and loud humming machines everywhere. The Zarnuk lined the walls. She tried to hold a thought. Steel, smell, silent, cold, but nothing held. They led her down a long hallway. The other humans whispered. They did something to her memory, completely wiped it. But not completely. Something still inside. "She's dangerous," the girl heard them. Something stirred. Was there a hint of fear, excitement? She didn't know. Finally they reached a chamber. It looked like a spaceship's cabin. Dim lights, smooth surfaces, a single window showing black space and distant stars. She glanced out. She realized she was off Earth. The man sat her down. "My name is Jason. This is Lee." The woman nodded. "We came for you during the raid. You were unconscious." Jason opened a panel. From it he pulled the device again. "This has your memory backup. We were going to restore it, but something. We thought better." Lee added softly, "We traced your neural patterns. They don't match a normal human profile." The girl blinked. "What does that mean?" Jason looked at her with strong eyes. "You're different. They wanted to erase what made you unique." She shook her head. "I don't understand." A soft voice came from loudspeakers. It was the Zarnuk. Subject resumed. "Prepare cognitive integration." The panel on the door lit up in red. Jason and Lee exchanged looks. Jason said quickly, "New test. Get ready." Lee took the device and held it near the girl's head gently. "We don't want to rush you. Tell us if you're ready." The panel flashed on the door. Entering test chamber. The girl felt fear. But the humming machines had taught her, survive, test, escape. So she said a short word. "Okay." The walls slid open. A small room with a single chair appeared. A hologram flickered in front of her, an alien battlefield. Strange gray creatures fought humans on a smoky planet. She felt strange, a flicker of anger. But no memories of war. Jason whispered, "Remember nothing. Focus on the room. They want mental reaction." A mysterious wall spirit, no text. Perhaps she will remember and designer hide something. She sat. Lee sat beside her. Both held her hands. The hologram changed. It pointed at her. The image in her mind pulsed. She closed her eyes. Pain exploded. Images rushed. Her holding a gun. Screams. Blinding light. A man shouting her name. And the same voice from the device. Echo. Then silence. The girl fell forward, gripping the arms of the chair. Machines beeped. Lee rushed to steady her. Jason checked the sensors. The aliens behind panels whispered, "Cognitive reaction at 80%. Jason whispered, "You're different." The girl's breathing was ragged. She opened her eyes. She looked at Jason and Lee, then at the swirling hologram. She murmured, "Echo." Jason squeezed her hand. Lee dropped the device. The door slid open again. The girl stood. She didn't remember it all. But something changed. That night, she lay on a cot. The cabin lights were low. Jason sat beside her quietly. "You're safe," he said. "But remember, they erased your memory." She stared at the ceiling. The words echoed. "Yes," she whispered. "They wanted to erase me. But something remains. Jason nodded. He understood. He tapped a handheld screen. On it he added new data. He paused. Tomorrow we show you Earth. We ask, what do you remember? She nodded. Her mind felt raw. Pain and strength. Fear and hope. Outside, the metal ship soared through. Silent space. Inside, the girl closed her eyes. She was waiting for memories, for answers. For herself. The ship's lights glowed pale blue inside the narrow hallway. The girl, still nameless, walked beside Jason and Lee. Her legs felt light, almost floating. Her mind still buzzed from the memory test. She clutched a gray blanket around her shoulders. They reached a large lab with clear walls and blinking consoles. The Zarnak were inside, monitoring her. The girl's heart pounded. She glanced at Jason. He gave her a reassuring nod. Stay with us. The Zarnak turned. Their black eyes locked on her through the glass. No emotion showed. One tapped commands on a floating console. Another turned a device like a scanner, pointing it at her. Lee whispered, "They want data. They want to see how much you remember." Jason placed a hand on her arm. "Remember, we're with you. Whatever you feel, respond, but control yourself." The girl took a deep breath. She held the blanket tighter. She felt empty but knew power inside. The Zarnaks. Lead scientist stepped forward. She raised a tall screen inside the lab. On it, live brain reads, waves, pulses, patterns flowed like water. In the console, an alien voice translated the scientist's words in English. Cognitive markers rising. Subject reactive. The girl looked away, blinking. She did not want them to see fear or doubt. She stared at Lee instead. Lee gave a small smile. The girl squeezed her hand. Jason guided them back to a cabin room. He closed the door. The girl slumped on a chair. Her head throbbed. Lee handed her a glass of water. "Here," she said in a soft voice. "Drink." The girl sipped slowly. The water helped, but a fresh pain flickered. She closed her eyes. "Today they measured me again," she whispered. "They will never stop learning from you," Lee said. "Or stopping you." The girl set the glass down. I don't know who I am," she said. "But I still hear the echo." Lee nodded. "They call you Subject Number 7. The name sounded cold and lifeless. They erased you, but they kept you alive. You're valuable." The girl stared at the floor. "Why can't I remember my name?" She paused, voice gentle but trembling. "Why does my mind reject everything?" Jason leaned forward. "Maybe your mind blocks your memories. Maybe it protects something." Lee added, "They wiped out your file records, identification. But your brain, it's different. It can hide itself." The girl sighed. "Then how do I find me?" Jason said. "In time. We need your skill back." Her eyes widened. "My skill?" Jason and Lee exchanged a glance. Jason said, "Listen. You're not just any human. You were part of Echo Unit." Her jaw tightened. "Echo, yes, I heard it." Lee said softly, "You and another soldier. You were top operatives. You got deep behind enemy lines in the Dome War." "The Dome War?" she whispered. She had no clue. Lee explained, "A fight between Earth Union and rebel factions. You were behind enemy lines. You did missions only elite soldiers handle." Something stirred. Inside her mind, a familiar stance. A tactical crouch. She closed her eyes and pictured herself moving through dark corridors, rifle raised, stepping quietly. The memories snapped away. Jason said, "Something inside remembers them. We just have to wake it." The girl swallowed. "Then we do it." They spent the next hours in the cabin. Jason showed her handheld holo recordings. They were grainy footage taken from her helmet camera during missions. He played one. The clip showed a ruined city under purple sky. She was crouched behind debris, scanning for hostiles. Then she raised her rifle and fired with precise calm. The girl flinched as the video played. She closed her eyes. She could feel the rifle in her hands, but she could not remember who she was shooting at or why. Jason paused it. Your aim, perfect. Your heart stayed stable. You even spoke a code phrase just before firing. The girl whispered, ammo, check. Lee said, that's training, you were the best. More clips followed. Bomb disarms, stealth infiltration, leader talks. In some, the camera caught only the back of the girl, someone familiar, but she could not place her own face. After the final clip, the cabin remained silent. The girl stared at the floor. Her hands trembled. I don't know her, she said softly. Jason and Lee exchanged sad looks. Lee said, you will. They left the cabin. The girl's body felt like a well that drained slowly. Every show of her skill shook her. She needed rest. Suddenly alarms blared. Red lights streaked along the hallways. A metallic voice echoed. Alert. Security breach. Subject. Echo unit. The Zarnak were on high alert. Jason grabbed the girls arm. We have to move now, Lee shouted directions. Left down. This way. They blocked past tight corridors. Behind them, the thumps of Zarnak guards. Heavy footsteps on metal. The girl felt her heart fighting to stay normal. She closed her eyes and thought, move, survive. A group of 4 Zarnak soldiers stood in the corridor, weapons ready. Jason and Lee raised their own energy sidearms. Jason whispered, make a run for it. He shot the nearest Zarnak weapon, bay metal sparks. Lee took a radius punch, striking thin joints. The girl froze. No training yet may be too dangerous, but a second group appeared behind them. The girl tensed. Something inside her whispered, crouch, aim, fire. She fell into a stance. Her hands found a hidden sidearm on her belt. She drew it. They came closer. The girl fired. Her hand was steady. The shot hit a weapon console on the guard's body. Sparks flew. A Zarnak staggered and fell. The others recalculated and retreated. Jason and Lee stared in shock. She stood, breathing calmly. Blanket fallen. Her eyes bright. The Zarnak were down. Lee's voice trembled. That was, you shot with precision. Jason's eyes narrowed. That was you, but we don't know what you know. The alarms still blared. Jason grabbed the girl's hand. We go deeper. They're tracking your neural signature. If they find it, there will be more. They ran. Chest-high steel blocks slowed them. But the girl moved fast like she knew the layout. They reached an automatic door that led into a secure corridor. Jason used a key code. The door slid open. Inside, a warm-lit area, filled with supplies, silent machines, and no guards. The Zarnak speakers echoed. Subject number 7. Eliminate. The girl's heart pounded. She turned to Jason. What now? He said, we find what they erased. We learn your background. We stop them. But Lee looked at him. We can't stay here. Jason nodded. We move. They reached a control room. It glowed with green radar screens. Lee toggled switches and pulled wires. A digital map showed the ship's interior. A large red dot moved closer. Zarnak units coming. Lee said, good, the escape door is here. She tapped a console and a blue arrow lit up the path. This leads to a service pod docking area. The girl studied the map. Something clicked. The path led through several zones she had not seen before. She opened her mouth to speak. She hesitated. I don't know this ship. Jason squeezed her shoulder. You might though. Lee's voice urged, let's go. She flicked screens and the map changed to liftoff lanes. They worked quickly. Thumps grew loud. The map's red dot dash, ZARNOK dash, nearing dot. They hurried down. A corridor. The girl led the way sometimes, eyes flicking to panels. Jason followed. Lee closed doors behind them to slow pursuers. They reached heavy blast doors. Lee punched in override codes. The door slid open. The girl stared outside. A long passage led to another deck. Lights flickered low power. Systems groaned. They stepped out. Almost immediately, a thick, creeping fog rolled in from vents. The alarms were still blaring. The girl inhaled. The air tasted of coolant and fear. She followed Jason. Lee followed her. They hit a junction. Red text flashed. Exit pod AB. She led them toward a dot. Jason whispered, "Hold on, we're ready." The girl took a deep breath. She felt the echo, meaning her skill, her training. Something inside her clicked into place again. She gripped the sidearm and moved forward. A door slid open to a docking bay. Inside, dark pod units, aligned neatly. Each one labeled Personnel Escape. Jason and Lee helped the girl into pod. Lights dimmed as she strapped in. Lee whispered, "Ready?" The girl's voice was calm. "Yes." Jason activated the pod. He tapped the launch key. The pod closed with a hiss. Outside, the docking bay door slammed behind them. Alarms stopped. Inside the pod, the girl's heart pounded. The lights flickered as the pod shook. She closed her eyes. She thought, land, survive. Outside, the pod separated from the ship. It hummed upward, escaping the Zarnok vessel. Inside, safety and darkness merged. The girl stared at the small window. She saw stars again. Jason's voice came crackling on a cum. "You made it. You're safe. For now." She whispered back, "I still don't know who I am." Jason sighed. "We'll find out, Echo." The pod hummed silent. Stars drifted. Inside, the girl closed her eyes. She felt a pulse inside her head, familiar. The echo remained. A dull vibration shook the escape pod. Inside, the girl lay strapped in her seat. Her eyes were closed, but her mind raced. She still had no name, only echoes. Who she was, what she could do. Slowly, the pod's light shifted from red to dim. Blue, its automated voice spoke. Atmosphere acquired. System stable, awaiting landing. She exhaled deeply. Her muscles relaxed, yet her heart still pounded. They were away from the Zarnok ship, but not safe yet. She forced her eyes open. Through the small window, she saw the gray surface of a rocky moon. No signs of life. No lights. Just dust and shadows. Down below, she spotted a lights-out landing pad and a large door in a cliffside. The pod landed with a soft thud, the lights shifting green. A mechanical voice said, "Disembark. Use exit ramp." The girl clicked her restraint. Open. Jason and Lee stood beyond the pod's glass. They were sweating, their faces tight. Her breath caught. Jason tapped on the glass. "Come on. We'll get you to a medical tent." Lee slid the hatch. The girl slid out, flexible and slow. Like a plant in wind, she stood unsteadily. Her legs wobbled. Jason caught her arm. Inside the cave base, the air was stale, cold. Neon strips lit the narrow hallway. It was built into the cliff-rough stone walls, married to metal panels. Security turrets pointed at the walls, unlit, but obvious. Jason guided her forward. "They monitor our feed. We have only minutes before they send scan drones." Lee whispered, "We can't mask your neural signature forever." The girl swallowed. Her head throbbed again. She blinked. She had forgotten how it felt to walk freely. Her memory was a blank space. They reached the heart of the base. A circular chamber with a low ceiling. Banks of computers, beds, and a single medical bed with scanning equipment. Medical bots hovered around. A human doctor in a white coat stood by computers. "This is Dr. Reyes," Jason said. "She run your initial checks." The doctor nodded at the girl. She gently guided her to the scanning table. "Just lie down," she said. The girl slipped onto the bed. The bots hovered over her with scanners. Red lights swept her body. The doctor tapped controls. Lee stood by, her arms crossed. Everything's okay, right? Dr. Reyes nodded at the scanner readouts. Vital signs stable, minor stress. She's fine. One scanner hovered above the girl's head. Suddenly, a spike lit up. The doctor pressed a button. There, that's neural activity. In seconds, a second spike. A pulse of energy. Her head jerked involuntarily. Lee put a hand to the girl's arm. Doctor? Jason asked. She frowned at the screen. There's something else. Unusual. Remote systems cannot filter it. The girl's eyes flickered. She tried to speak, but her throat locked. Her mind filled with static voices. Then, a low hum inside her head, like a code being spoken. Clear words, protocol active, phase 1. The girl gasped. Her fingers gripped the table. She felt alive. Then pain hit her like an electric shock. She arched her back. White lights flashed in her mind. In the control room, screens blinked red. The doctor called, "Code alert, we need to shut it down." Jason raised his voice. "Lee, disable access." Lee scanned terminals and typed rapidly. The girl screamed softly, but her voice echoed, not weak, strong. Then silence. The girl lay still. Her chest heaved. The bots powered down. The doctor and Jason moved in. "Are you all right?" the doctor asked. The girl took a breath. I felt it." Jason's eyes were wide. "What did you feel?" Her voice was low, measured. "Something inside me. It woke up." Lee looked at her in awe. "That was the code. Just like before." Dr. Reyes stepped back. "This is bigger than we thought." Silence fell. After a moment, the girl stood. Her legs were firm. She shook slightly, but with purpose. Jason put a hand on her shoulder. "Rest a bit." She shook her head. "I can't." Lee glowed. "We have another secure test. It's time when you feel ready." The girl nodded. She thought. Her lineage, whatever it was not normal. The Zarnuk tried to control it. They erased her mind. Still, something remained. She walked out of the scanner room with Jason and Lee. Outside, she reached for her belt and found her sidearm. She lifted it. The weight felt comforting. Lee touched her arm. "We run the test, we know more." Jason looked between them. "We need to plan carefully." The girl nodded. "Okay, let's do it." They followed dim hallways to a heavy steel door labeled "Subject Test, Escape." Jason knocked. A voice answered, "Enter." They stepped into a wide testing chamber. Lights were harsh. The walls had red emergency bars, window panels. A control desk sat in the corner behind glass, with 2 humans operating it and a bank of Zarnok tech. Jason whispered, "Exit is at the other end. You make it there in 6 minutes. That's the test." Lee squeezed the girl's hand. "You can go anytime." The girl nodded, breathing steady. She took a step forward onto the metal floor. A voice boomed from hidden speakers. "Subject number 7. Test, Escape Challenge. Level 1. A gate clanged shut behind her. She turned, saw it close. No panic. She looked at Jason and Lee. They both nodded. This was what she needed. Behind the glass doors, the humans and Zarnok monitored. The test began. A countdown timer appeared in red numerals on the wall. 6 o'clock. The door ahead slid open. Beyond it, long corridor with lighting at intervals, doors. On each side, pressure sensors overhead, hidden turrets. Smoke from vents. The girl took a deep breath and stepped forward. 2:49 left on the timer. She moved down the corridor. Her boots made quiet squeaks. First door on the right opened. Metal sets clanged. A humanoid robot rolled out and pointed a weapon. The girl snapped. Her head left and saw a vent cover on the opposite wall. She dove for it and slid inside. Metal bits scraped. She heard the robot's pulses. The machine passed by. She crawled fast, her body adapting exactly to the motion. She felt a memory of crawling through tunnels. but no idea why she knew how. At the next end of the vent, she popped out. She found herself behind the robot. Without hesitation, she took the sidearm and fired a shot at its exposed joint. Sparks flew. It collapsed. Outside, people watching gasped. Jason tapped his desk. Lee bit her lip. The timer read 2:22. She moved on. Doors shot open, revealing smoke-filled rooms with alien creatures. Test dummies, maybe. They had glass eyes, stiff arms. They lunged at the door. She slipped past, zigzagging. 1:40. Her heart raced. The code voice came back, Phase 1 active. She heard in her head, it was calm. Her trigger, a narrow corridor appeared, pressure pads on the floor. She knew, step pad, shoot laser turret. She stepped on a pad, waited. A turret turned. She fired first shot. Hit. 2 more. 3 down. 0:55. Suddenly, lights went off. Darkness. Her pulse hammered. She stopped. The timer ticked. 0:45. She paused. Then, she whispered a code. Echo silent. Lights flashed. Emergency lights switched on, pointing left. She moved. 0:30. She saw the exit door, thick and fiery red. She ran. Small drones flew in the corridor, patrolling. She fired at them, fluid, no hesitation. 0:12. She reached the door. She slid her hand over the biometric panel. The door clicked open. She ran through. She slammed it shut. Camera above registered success. Lights flickered on. Clock reads 0:05. 5 seconds left. The chamber voice announced. Test complete. Subject escaped in record time. Phase 1 successful. Through the glass, Jason and Lee raced in. Zarnok scientists stared at consoles. They scribbled, tapped, adjusted. Jason grabbed her by the arm. Are you okay? She breathed heavily. Yes. She put the sidearm on the desk. She felt alive. Something awakened inside her. Lee looked at the scientists. Then to Jason and the girl. They're impressed, she whispered. Jason took the girl's face in his hands. You just woke up your power. We go slower next time. Phase 2. The girl nodded, wiped sweat. Her body tingled, not sore, strong. She had done it. They left the test chamber, and Jason closed the door behind them. The alarms stilled. The base comm returned. Lee guided the girl to a small room with chairs. She sat. Jason put a hand on her shoulder. She looked at him. Jason. Sighed. That was stunning. His voice quieted. There's more tests, maybe real combat. The girl closed her eyes. She thought of that corridor, the vent, the turrets. She felt proud, but also curious. She murmured, "What's next?" Lee gave her a tired, excited smile. "Next, we find the weapon." Jason explained, "We find out why they call you a weapon." "And what they stole," the girl nodded. But inside her mind, the code whispered again, "Protocol active." That night, the girl sat by a small window that looked out onto the rocky surface under electric skies. She touched her belt at the sidearm. She remembered something faint, a calm presence. A mission. People relying on her. She vowed, "I will. Find me, and I will finish it." Lee brought her water. She sat beside her. "You did well today. Thank you." The girl managed a soft smile. "And tomorrow?" Lee stayed silent. She knew. Tomorrow would be harder. Jason joined them with a data tablet. He tapped it. "We've decoded part of your neural echo. It mentions protocol echo. Something in your mind is locked under layered keys." The girl looked at him. "Keys? And if we unlock them, you become unstoppable." The girl closed her eyes. She held her head. She thought of the mission, of the Zarnak, of the takeover. A voice inside whispered, "I remember." She whispered softly, "Then let's unlock it." Lee and Jason looked at each other. They both believed. The weapon had awakened. The girl sat alone in the quiet room. Outside, the wind howled softly against the rocky moon. The electric sky flickered blue and gray. Inside, the cold air hummed with the soft buzz of machines. Jason and Lee had left the room minutes ago, promising to return with answers. But the girl's mind was restless. She looked down at her hands. They trembled slightly. She still did not know her name or her past. But one thing was clear: she was no ordinary human. The test showed that. The weapon inside her was real. Suddenly, a sharp pain struck her head. She gasped and gripped the edge of the chair. Her vision blurred. Then, a whisper: "Find the key. Find the truth." It was faint, but clear. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She wanted to scream too, ask questions, but no words came. Instead, she focused on the whisper, trying to hold on to it. The door opened quietly. Lee stepped inside, carrying a small device glowing with blue light. She smiled softly. "You okay?" The girl nodded slowly. I felt something. Like a memory." Lee sat down beside her. "That means the protocol is starting to unlock." She held out the device. "This is a neural key decoder. It might help you remember more." The girl took the device cautiously. It was warm in her hand, and it hummed softly. "How does it work?" Lee looked at her seriously. "It connects to your mind through your neural implant. It can unlock layers of your erased memories. But be careful. Some memories might be painful." The girl's eyes hardened. "I need to remember. No matter what." Jason entered then, holding a small data pad. "We have new information about your past," he said. "And the protocol inside you." He sat beside Lee. "Your neural imprint matches an ancient warrior program from the lost world of Solara. It was created to fight invaders, to protect humanity from extinction." The girl's breath caught. "Solara?" Jason nodded. "Yes, a world destroyed centuries ago by an alien empire, the Zarnak. Your mind contains the last fragment of their weapon program. That's why they erased your memories. They feared what you could become." The girl's heart pounded. "I'm a weapon." "No," Lee corrected softly. "You are more than that. A weapon can destroy. But you can also protect." Jason looked at her with respect. "You're the last hope." The first memory unlock Lee connected the neural key decoder to the girl's temple. The device hummed louder. Blue light wrapped around her head. The girl felt warmth spread through her skull. Suddenly, her vision flashed. She was somewhere else. A bright city, tall buildings made of crystal and metal. People walked the streets. But they wore strange clothes, glowing symbols on their arms. A voice called to her. "Commander Alira, the invaders are near." The girl gasped. The voice was her own, clear and confident. She saw herself wearing armor, standing on a rooftop, overlooking the city. Her eyes burned with determination. A squad of soldiers gathered behind her. She raised a hand. "Prepare defenses. We fight to the last breath." The vision faded. She gasped and opened her eyes. Lee looked amazed. "Commander Alira," she whispered. "That's your name." The girl repeated it, testing the sound. "Alira," Jason smiled. "You're the last of the Solarans." Flashback and reality collide as Alira. The girl sat back, feeling a mix of hope and fear. Her mind felt heavier, filled with questions. What had happened to her people? How did she survive? The pain returned suddenly, sharp and relentless. She clenched her fists and shut her eyes. This time, the whisper was louder. "The key is buried beneath the ashes." Lee and Jason looked concerned. "You're trying to tell us something." Lee said gently. Alira nodded. "I think the key is somewhere on this moon, buried under the ruins." Jason frowned. "Then we must find it before the Zarnak do." Preparing for the mission, Jason stood in the command room, pointing at a holographic map of the rocky moon. We believe the ruins of Solara's last city lie beneath this crater. It's dangerous. The Zarnak have patrols everywhere. Lee checked her gear. We'll need stealth suits and advanced scanners. Alira looked at the map carefully. If the key is buried there, it's our only chance. Jason nodded. We leave at first light. The room was tense but hopeful. Alira felt stronger than before. The weapon inside her was waking. But this mission would be her true test. The journey to the crater. The next morning, Alira, Jason, and Lee boarded a small hovercraft. The engines hummed as they rose over the rocky landscape. Dust swirled below. Alira looked out the window. The crater came closer, a deep pit filled with jagged rocks and broken structures, half buried in dust. Jason piloted carefully. The Zarnak have sensors near the rim. We must avoid detection. Lee checked her scanner. I'm picking up faint energy signatures. Could be traps. Alira's heart raced. This was no longer just a test. It was a mission to save her people's legacy. The descent into ruins. They landed near the crater rim. The air was thin, and the cold bit their skin. Alira stepped out, her boots crunching on the rocky ground. Her suit's HUD lit up with sensors. They started down the slope. Dust clouds rose with every step. Suddenly, a loud beep sounded from Lee's scanner. Movement, she whispered. Alira grabbed her sidearm. Jason raised his rifle. Shadows moved along the crater walls. Zarnak patrol drones. Stay low, Jason said. We avoid them. They ducked behind rocks, creeping down. The drones scanned with beams of light. Alira's breath caught. Then a loud explosion rocked the crater wall. Dust and debris fell. The drones were caught off guard. Now! Lee shouted. They dashed forward. Alira's heart pounded in her ears. The weapon inside her surged. She felt powerful, more than before. They reached the bottom of the crater, the secret chamber amid. The ruins was a large stone door covered with alien symbols. It pulsed with faint blue light. Jason examined it. This is a sealed vault. The key you're searching for could be inside. Alira stepped forward. The neural key decoder in her hand glowed. She placed it against the door. The symbols reacted. A low hum filled the air. Suddenly, the door began to slide open. Inside was a chamber filled with ancient technology screens, holograms, and weapon parts. Alira stepped inside. A hologram flickered to life. A woman's voice spoke. Welcome, Commander Alira. The protocol echo has been activated. Your mission is to reclaim our future. Alira's eyes shone. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the awakening inside the chamber. Alira found a small device, a glowing orb. She touched it, and it merged with her neural implant. A rush of images flooded her mind, her people fighting the Zarnak. The final battle, her mind being erased. Tears welled up. The weight of her loss was heavy. But also hope. She whispered, I remember now. I will fight. The return. Alira stepped out of the chamber. Jason and Lee waited anxiously. We found it, she said, holding the orb. Jason smiled. The weapon within you just got stronger. Lee nodded. This is the beginning. The sky outside crackled with energy. Somewhere in the distance, the Zarnak ships loomed. Alira looked at them. She was ready. The hovercraft vanished into the dusty haze as Alira, Jason, and Lee returned to the moonbase. The small orb pulsed in Alira's hand. It contained her past and her people's hope. She tucked it into a padded pouch on her suit. But every step felt heavier now. Inside the base, alarms wailed. Red lights cut through darkness. Jason exchanged a deadly look with Lee. They found our signature, he whispered. They're here. Alira's heart beat faster. She raised her sidearm. Prepare for them. They rushed through halls toward the central hangar. The base's defenders, human soldiers and bots, lined up behind cover. Alira felt a strange calm settle over her. She placed a hand on Jason's shoulder. We do this together. The invasion rumbling. Footsteps shook the hangar. The door screamed open. Zarnuk forces poured in thin, gray, and deadly. Their weapons glowed blue. The defenders opened fire. Explosions rocked the floor. Gunfire ricocheted through metal walls. Alira yelled, "Protect the orb!" She sprinted forward, dodging enemies. She fired precise shots, taking down drones and soldiers alike. Her aim was steady. Her mind was clear. Jason and Lee flanked her. Together, they advanced toward the hangar's center. A massive Zarnuk warrior dropped from the ceiling. Metal plates shifted as it landed. It aimed a heavy blaster. Alira coughed, black smoke swirling as the first blast hit. Jason charged in. "Move!" he shouted. Alira aimed at the warrior's joints. She squeezed the trigger. Blue light flared. The warrior toppled, sparks pouring. From its armor, they fought their way deeper. Zarnuk reinforcements came, but defenders rallied under Alira's leadership. She pointed, organized them, fought with purpose. When the battle ended, the hangar lay silent. Smoke curled in the air. Human soldiers cheered quietly. Alira stood tall, breath ragged. Her body burned with adrenaline. Lee approached, beaming. "You saved them." Jason nodded. "And our base thanks to you." They looked at each other. Alira tapped the orb's pouch, voice soft. "What now?" The cryotube discovery. Jason and Lee guided Alira toward the back of the hangar. There, behind a reinforced steel wall, was a hidden chamber. Inside, a cryotube glowed softly. Alira's breath caught. Liquid dripped down the tube. She pressed her hand to the glass. Inside lay a man, young, asleep, with features similar to hers. Shocked, she stepped back. Lee whispered, "We found him in a Zarnuk data cache. We think he's your brother." Alira's heart skipped. "Brother?" Jason nodded. Genetic markers matched. Same imprint. "He's been in cold sleep on board that Zarnuk ship." Tears blurred Alira's vision. She stared. "Why is he here?" Lee explained, voice hushed. "They captured 2 Solarans. Your bond was strong. They erased your memories. But only yours. You woke. They fear him because he might unlock more. So they froze him." Alira closed her eyes. "We have to wake him." Jason placed a hand on her shoulder. "And we will." Reactivation. Thea wheeled the cryotube to the medical lab. Dr. Reyes met them, scanning the tube's controls. "This process is risky," she said. "He's been in cryosleep for months, maybe years. We need stabilization before induction." Alira nodded. "Do it." Lee knelt by the tube, watching as machines woke up. Alira paced. Every second felt slow. Finally, the cryotube hissed. The glass fogged. A face formed. Eyes flickered, then closed. The man gasped. He sat up suddenly, breathing hard, water and condensation dripping from his clothes. Alira cried out, "Brother?" The man stared at her. Fear and confusion filled his eyes. Jason and Lee rushed in. Dr. Reyes watched carefully. The man placed a hand on the glass. He whispered, Alira?" Tears shining, Alira stepped forward. "I'm here." The cryotube unlocked. The man stood unsteadily. He looked at his hands and then at his sister. Emotion froze, then broke into tears. The reunion. Alira rushed to him. They embraced, tears and helmets clattering. Jason and Lee stepped back respectfully. The man wept softly. Alira stroked his hair. I thought you were lost." He looked up, confused. "They said ... she died. But I remember the voice, your voice." She wiped his tears. "I remember you too." He stared at Alira for a long moment. "I'm your sister," she said quietly. "Alira, you're my brother." He closed his eyes. "I'm Zeren." Alira hugged him again. He stiffened slightly in her arms, then relaxed. Zeren whispered, I don't remember much. I woke up alone, then you. Healing and truth, they sat in the lab's recovery room. Zurin leaned back, exhausted. Jason and Lee joined them. Zurin tested his breath. What year is it? He asked, voice hoarse. Alira answered softly. Long after Solara fell. We are on a moon base. Zurin's brow furrowed. We should have stopped the Zarnok. Alira swallowed. They erased my memories. I woke up. We fought back. Lee chimed, you're safe. Now. We found an orb they call the protocol key. Zurin stared at the orb's pouch. That power. Jason explained. We found your sister's weapon, her program. She aims to protect humanity now. Zurin shook his head. I'm sorry. I could not protect you. Alira squeezed his hand. You did what you could. We both survived. They looked at each other. A shared past, pain and hope bound them. A new directive. Dr. Reyes entered, holding a datapad. You both need rest, she said firmly. Your bodies are out of sync. Cryosleep takes a toll. Alira nodded, understood. As they prepared to leave, Jason met Alira's eyes. She nodded. They'd done it, but alarms blared again. Threat looms. Jason's communicator beeped. Zarnok ships approaching, he said grimly. Lee rushed in. They're heading to the base. We don't have much time. Zurin stepped forward. I'm ready. Alira held up the orb. It glowed blue. She looked at her brother. We fight together. Jason's voice was steady. Defend the key. Defend humanity. They moved as one. The orb pulsed softly across Alira's chest. Zurin placed a hand on her shoulder. The base shook as Zarnok vessels streaked into view. Through the hangar window, Alira, Zurin, Jason, and Lee watched massive ships descend like dark shadows. The red lights from their cannons blinked ominously. Time's running out, Jason said, voice cold. We need a plan. Alira pressed her hand to the orb's pouch. It glowed softly, reacting to the threat. Zurin looked fierce. We fight with them. Lee's voice was steady. We hold them back until we escape with the orb. Alira nodded. The orb was their key to defeat or demise if lost. She met her brother's gaze. Together, they were stronger. Preparing the defense in the command room, the team organized every defender. Human soldiers, bots, and volunteers took positions. Jason designated stations. Entry gate, hangar perimeter, orb vault. Lee coordinated communication and shields. Zurin took command of the central line. Alira stood beside him, orb in hand. Keep your position, Jason ordered. No one dies. The orb must live. Alira felt fear, but also purpose. She inhaled deep. The first wave of Zarnok drones swarmed around the base's shield dome. Heavy beams struck the exterior, chipping metal. Sparks and fire erupted. The defenders pushed back. Alira sprinted to the perimeter gate, orb glowing bright in her pack. She raised a signal flare. Blue energy lit the dome generator as reinforcements poured in. At the hangar, monstrous Zarnok hybrids landed. Their limbs were twisted with alien metal. They roared and attacked. Alira's voice rang out. Form ranks. Zurin stood with her, steady and brave. They fought side by side, taking down one hybrid after another. The orb pulsed with each strike she made, almost as if it powered her courage. Breach in the vault. Inside the orb vault, Jason and Lee stood guard. The vault's door was heavy. Behind them, defenders blocked entry. Suddenly, alarms rang. Vault breach, Jason cursed. The door braced itself as the vault shook. Lee grabbed her. Come. Alira, vault under attack. Alira's breath caught. We're coming. She and Zurin sprinted through corridors, soldiers falling around them. Alira heard the orb thrum, urgent, pulsing. They burst into the vault just as a Zarnok hybrid charged. Zurin tackled it. Alira saw shadows moving. Could be soldiers inside. She raised her weapon. A blast hit her side. She fell against a wall. Zurin took the hybrid's weapon and fired back. The creature fell, crashing to the floor. It lay still. Inside the vault, defenders tended to the wounded. The orb floated in a protected platform. Alira crawled toward it. Her ribs ached. She pressed her knuckles against the ground. A hand grabbed her arm. "Alira," Lee said, pulling her to her feet and slinging the orb into her arms. Alira closed her eyes, clutching it. "I won't lose it." Jason rushed in behind them. "Defenses are holding, but more are coming." Alira slid the orb deeper into her pouch. It hummed quietly, reassuring her. The clash outside the battle raged. The base shook as Zarnok ships launched ground probes. Electric blasts cut through air and rock. Alira and Zarin led a counterattack. They held a group of hybrids at bay until reinforcements arrived. Their teamwork was flawless, two halves of one force. At one point, a hybrid overran their line. Zarin grunted. Alira fired. The creature fell. They helped each other up. Their eyes locked fear, trust, love. It kept them fighting, but the Zarnok were relentless. In waves and numbers. The orb continued to hum. The final push. Jason's voice came on Lee's come. "We have a way out." "A pod launch on the east wing," Alira heard. She looked at Zarin. He nodded. They made for the pod hangar. Soldiers fell around them. She grabbed Zarin's arm. "We move now." Lee joined them, guiding them through corridors. Jason followed behind with the wounded. A final wave of Zarnok hybrids blocked the exit. "Alira!" Lee shouted. Alira hugged the orb. She raised her weapon. Inside, the orb glowed bright. She felt code inside her protocol echo. A pulse radiated from it. The air shimmered. The hybrids staggered, then fell, frozen. Shock filled the defenders. Lee gasped. Jason's jaw dropped. Alira lowered the weapon. The orb powered down. Zeren stared. Escaped to the pod. They sprinted into the launch bay. Soldiers locked down the pod. Zarin helped Jason into the pilot seat. Alira carried the orb as Lee strapped her into the passenger seat. The pod's engines powered on. Jason shouted, "Lift off." The pod's door closed. Thrusters flared. They shot upward into the sky, leaving the base behind. The camera view inside showed defenders holding small groups of Zarnok, the bases. Dome flickered. Then silence. Safe for now inside the pod. The G-force pressed them back. Alira held the orb tight. Jason wiped sweat. "That was unbelievable." Zarin nodded. "You unlocked something." Alira set the orb on her lap. She stared at it, its glow still faint. Lee took her hand. "You saved us." They glided upward toward the dark sky. Jason clicked a button. A feed showed the base receding, smoke. "Fires, but still standing," Alira exhaled. "We did it." Lee smiled. "But what next?" Alira met her gaze. "We go deeper." Echo Phase 2. Zarin looked at his sister. "Together." Jason nodded. "To Solara's future." They sat in silence. The orb between them. The stars loomed ahead, peaceful yet mysterious. The escape pod glided through silent space. Alira held the orb tightly, her eyes scanning the view ahead. Zarin sat beside her, silent in thought. Jason monitored systems while Lee reviewed signals. All of them were wound tight with tension. They knew what awaited them next. Deep within the Zarnok ship they fled, a terrifying figure stirred. It was the hybrid, part human, part Alira, but twisted by alien technology. It carried her memories, her mannerisms, even her voice. It had one goal: stop Echo Protocol at any cost. Uneasy, calm Alira touched the orb. She felt its warmth, hope, power, calculation. She closed her eyes. The orb had protected them, but its power was raw. She needed control. Zeren leaned close. "You." Did well, he whispered. Alira looked at him. This is just the beginning. Her voice was firm yet soft. Lee interrupted. We just got a signal from the ship we escaped. Their scanning drones are searching for us. She tapped her console. And they are heading this way. Jason slumped back. We can't outrun them for long. We need to prepare. Alira nodded and stood. Then we face this head on. We lure them into a trap. Planning the trap, they gathered around a small holographic table. Lee projected the ship they fled. They mapped a route through asteroid field, debris zone, and finally into a canyon the ship couldn't safely navigate. Jason said, we need to buy time. I'll pull them in. You three stay hidden. Zurin nodded. I'll watch sensors, Lee added, and set the timers. Alira placed her hand over the orb. When they get close, we use the orb. Not to attack, but to disrupt their signal. Jason's eyebrow rose. Disrupt? That may disable their scan drones. Alira nodded. Enough time for us to escape. Lee studied the map. We only get one shot. Into the field, the pod approached a stretch of space filled with floating Rex asteroids and battle debris. Their pod's sensors flickered with echoes. A warning tone sounded. Zarnuk drones closing fast. Jason took a firm grip on the controls. Here we go. The pod dove into the debris field. Alira studied the orb. It pulsed as drones appeared on sensors. Lee whispered, Now? Alira nodded. She pressed the orb against the window. It glowed an eerie blue. A wave of energy burst outward, crackling like lightning. The pod's instruments rocked, and outside, the Zarnuk drones orbiting stalled, sparks flowing over their metallic shells. Jason maneuvered sharply through debris. He heard static, drone systems dying. Behind them, the Zarnuk ship twisted, slowed, confused. The orb's light faded. The pod erupted through the other side of the field. Confrontationala slumped against the seat exhausted. But the orb shined. Softly once more, Zurin spoke quietly, You saved us again. Before Jason could reply, the sensors blared. Zarnuk boarding beam detected. The distant glow of a tractor beam pulled them in. Alira's heart raced again. Jason shouted, Buckle in, this gets rough. The pod struggled. Lights flickered. Outside, metal arms extended. The beam locked. On them, Alira stood. We fight here. She pressed the orb to the window again. The energy wave spread. Alarms rang. The boarding arm shook, sparking. Inside the pod, the walls trembled. Jason gritted his teeth and controlled the pod. Lee accessed. Controls. Zurin watched alarms. The orb pulsed strongly. Seconds felt like hours. Finally, the boarding beam faltered. The arms recoiled. The Zarnuk ship drifted away, confused. But then, a deep thrum filled the pod. Through the viewport came the horrifying figure. The hybrid, a humanoid with Alira's face. Its eyes glowed. Its lips curved in a mocking smile. Alira froze. Facing the mirror, the hybrid spoke with her voice. You cannot hide from yourself. Alira stared back. Her heart pounded. She raised a sidearm. What are you? The hybrid laughed, a sound of metal grinding. I am the echo of your power, the part they could not erase. I was made from you. Alira felt sick. The hybrid lifted. A hand. Energy sparked from its eyes. The orb on Alira's chest glowed protective light. They locked in a standoff. Power against power, human against echo. The hybrid whispered, Join me. Use the power to rule. Alira shook her head. No, I protect. The hybrid advanced. Prove it. The mental duel. The hybrid lunged toward the pod window. Alira stepped in front. Energy flared. The orb shielded her. But the hybrid's glare broke shields. Alira felt energy surge through her. She realized the fight wasn't just physical. It was inside her mind. She touched her head. A cascade of memories whirled. Solara, Zurin, battles, laughter, pain. She focused. Protocol echo. She whispered. A calm voice echoed in her head. The original genetic code. She extended her hand. The orb's light flared. It wrapped the hybrid in a wave of blue. The hybrid screamed inside, mentally. No, not control. Alira echoed the code in her mind. Echo Shield, Heart of Solara. The hybrid staggered, its form flickering. Outside the pod, the environment blurred as Alira's internal power reshaped perception. Jason and Lee watched, awed, as the orb's glow changed the pod's atmosphere. Light shimmered. Alira held steady, mental focus unwavering. She was the master now. The hybrid's form quivered, then collapsed, turning to shards of light and data. Absorbed by the orb. Silence. Aftermath and resolve. The pod lurched. Energy drained. The orb dimmed to a soft glow. Alira collapsed into her seat. She was shaking. Zurin rushed to her block. Lee and Jason supported her. Alira touched the orb. It pulsed softly. She whispered, "I am here." Lee brushed her hair back. "You saved us." Zurin looked at her with pride. "You saved me." Jason exhaled hard. "You're whole again." Alira closed her eyes. She felt relief and sorrow. The hybrid had her face her potential, but she had overcome it. Jason cleared his throat. "We have time to breathe, but not relax. More challenges await." Alira nodded. The orb glowed faintly. She placed it in a secure pouch. Lee activated the nav. The pod steered toward a dark starfield. Alira looked at her team, brother, friends. Her voice was calm and sure. Phase 2 begins now. The pod glided silently through darkness. Alira pressed her forehead to the cool glass. Stars drifted by, and far below, a blue and green orb home glowed against the black. She had the orb of Solara glowing softly against her chest. It pulsed with gentle light, like a heartbeat. Zeren. Jason and Lee remained behind, exhausted but alert. The ship's emergency thrusters hummed. They had survived barely. Yet this was only the beginning. Homecoming. The pod docked with the Earth defense. Cruiser Aurora. The airlock hissed, lights flickered green, and the doors slid open. A squad of uniformed soldiers stood ready, weapons lowered but wary. Jason led them out. Alira stepped onto the metallic floor of her home planet for the first time in years. Earth air filled her lungs. Grass, rain, memory. A commanding officer approached, eyes wide. "Commander Alira, you returned." Alira nodded, voice soft but strong. "We did." She gestured to Zurin and the orb. "With help." The officer saluted. "Welcome home." Lee and Zurin exchanged glances. So much had changed in months. But now they stood in a new world. Earth, united and at war. The briefing. They stood in a military briefing room. A holomap of Earth showed zones under attack. Red dots. Zarnok invasions. A general cleared his throat. "Commander Alira, the orb you recovered, Protocol Echo, is the key. With it, we can shield Earth from invasion." Alira listened carefully. The orb's light glowed once. She understood its power. A weapon, yes, but also a shield. Zurin stood beside her. The general continued. "We need you and your brother to lead the mission. Use the orb to block incoming ships, and then strike back." Alira met Jason's gaze. He nodded. Lee squeezed her shoulder. The team was together. Alira cleared her throat. "We will do it. For Earth, for Solara." Preparing Earth's defenses, they moved to the orbital defense grid. Alira held the orb in her hands. The console glowed. Engineers worked frantically. Lee supervised. She tapped panels, activating shield channels. Jason helped the orb's energy integrate. It's responding. Zurin watched screens showing incoming Zarnok waves. "They're coming." Alira closed her eyes. She whispered, "Protocol Eco Shield of Solara." The orb lit up violently. A pale blue dome formed around Earth's orbit. Ships outside the grid flickered out of range. Engineers cheered. The general cracked a weary smile. The orb works. Alira exhaled. It's not enough. We must strike. Striking back, the team moved to the war room. Holodisplays showed Zarnuk ships massing near the moon. The general said, "We have a planned fleet strike, but they'll cut through shields unless—" Alira interrupted, "Unless we take them out before they dock." She gestured to the orb. "I can lead a strike team. Zurin and Lee at my side." Jason added, "I'll pilot." "The assault craft." The general nodded. "You have your orders." In the launch bay, they suited up, gear strapped tight. Alira fit the orb into a special harness. It would channel its power outward. She looked at Zurin. "We're together." He nodded. Lee gripped his arm. "We've got your back." Jason climbed into the pilot seat. Alira placed a hand on his shoulder. "Fly true." Into the final battle, their assault craft punched through the shield dome and into the void. The orb's aura blazed around the ship. Outside, Zarnuk vessels advanced, weapons glowing. Jason pulled upward. "Hold the orb steady, Alira." Alira reached out toward the orb. She whispered the code in her mind. Energy rippled outward. The orb's light pulsed like a heart. Blue waves struck the enemy fleet. Shields cracked. Beams misfired. Ships stalled. Zurin fired missiles. Lee fired rifles. The orb's field protected them as they broke the enemy line. Jason's voice strained. "Incoming fighters." Zarnuk fighters swarmed them. The orb's glow intensified again. Energy pulses pushed the fighters away, disabling their weapons. Alira, focused, eyes closed, she murmured the protocol silently. She felt the orb's power channel through her, combining with her will. Zarnuk command ship loomed ahead, its weapons laser-locked. The orb flared. Blue light struck the ship, disabling. Its bridge, the command vessel, spun. Fighters scattered. Victory, the enemy fleet broke formation. Earth defense fighters closed in, completing the strike. Ships erupted in light, explosions blooming across the void. Inside the craft, alarms blared. Jason shouted, "Time to retreat." Alira activated the orb's final wave. A pulse surged outward, clearing debris and disrupting electronics. They raced back through the shattered enemy line. The shield dome flickered as the orb powered down. Earth defended. Aftermath back on Aurora. Alarms ceased. Lights returned to calm. Alira, Zurin, Lee, and Jason stood on the viewing deck. Below, Earth rotated its orbit clear again. The general approached. "Commander Alira, you saved Earth." Alira shook her head. "We all saved Earth." The orb glowed faintly in her harness. Lee whispered, "What's next?" Alira looked at the orb. She spoke softly. "We prepare. We rebuild. And we keep watch." Zurin smiled. "Together." Jason nodded. "Echo lives." Final twist. Alira left the viewing deck and entered a private lab. Inside, a scientist tried to decode signals from the orb. He looked up, alarmed. "Ma'am, you need to see this." Alira approached. The screen showed a waveform repeating patterns. The scientist said, "It's a message. From deep space." "It bears your neural signature." Alira stared. "A message." "In my voice?" The scientist nodded. "Coming from a ship approaching the outer rim." Alira's heart raced. She held the orb closer. A faint echo of her voice repeated. "Echo. Never left." Her eyes lit. "We have a visitor," she whispered. The screen's display pulsed once. End scene. Fade out. Alira walked into the lab, orb in hand. The lights dimmed and the message repeated softly. She glanced at her team Earth, Solara, the orb, and then at the unknown threat approaching, her voice firm. "Echo never left." The screen glowed,